Remedy Games' Control has become a darling of the gaming world, gaining acclaim from critics and fans alike, even taking home the Art Direction Award at the Game Awards and winning Game of the Year from IGN in 2019. Journalists were quick to dissect the game, focusing on its unique art direction or the brutalist architecture it so prominently features. But today I wanted to explore another aspect of Control, one that's core to the overall experience of the game, that unnerving feeling that underlies almost every moment of gameplay, that subtle and building unease. This is designing dread. First, we must acknowledge the distinct difference between horror and dread. Horror is quantifiable, it's usually finite and it's easily identified, and almost a somewhat simpler reaction to draw from the player. Dread is far more nuanced, it's harder to achieve. Though I don't like to attribute much to him, the author of Ender's Game and noted racist, Orson Scott Card, describes dread wonderfully. Dread is the first and strongest type of fear. It is that tension, that waiting that comes when you know there's something to fear, but you've not yet identified what it is. The fear that comes when you first realize that your spouse should have been home an hour ago. When you realize that a window you're sure you closed is now open, the curtains billowing, and you're alone in the house. It's that very feeling that runs through the entire experience, that unease, that uncertainty, and it does so from the opening minutes of the game. From the game's very outset, a question is posed that sets you on edge. Where is everyone?
Hello? Anyone here?
Have you ever gone back into school after hours? Have you run back up to the office after all the lights have been turned off? There's something innately unsettling about a place that's meant to be full of humans that's now completely empty. Your eyes play tricks on you, almost as if subconsciously you're trying to populate the space that you know should be full of people. There's also a heavy use of juxtaposition in the game, which is a byproduct of some distinct choices made by devs. The building itself, the oldest house, the headquarters for the Federal Bureau of Control, is one of dense stone, a brutal concrete fortress. It's meant to exude safety and control, but within, it's being distorted and ripped apart by forces it has no way of controlling. Aside from being a symbol of governmental power, of safety, it's also a symbol of the middle-class working lifestyle, which you're constantly reminded of as you walk through vast rows of desks that stretch around the player, or pass by clutter, like the corkboards around the building, giving players a sense that this was once a place where workers would clock in and out, just living their workaday lives, not really thinking about much more than their daily routine, something that people often tend to find safety in. And yet these relics from pencil pushers past serve as a constant reminder that normalcy does not exist here, not anymore. Bureaucracy, systems of checks and balances, workplace hierarchy, all things that generally make our lives feel safer, smoother, and more efficient, mean nothing in the oldest house. At least not after the hiss. Control strips away things that are reassuring, either using them to provide contrast or outright turning them against you. The security staff of the building itself are the first to be infected. The stone walls that would normally make anyone feel safe shift and morph in unnatural ways. The game turns security into your enemy and a stone fortress into your tomb. Trust is another key tool in creating this emotion, and it's a key theme within the game's plot, as even our heroine struggles with who she can trust with her own secrets. Even the in-game collectibles have half of their information redacted, stifling your trust in the very organization that you're trying to save. Control even makes it hard to trust yourself, or at least your ability to get your bearings. Whenever the player sees the oldest house, the space never really looks finite. We can never visualize the space fully, as the edges are often lost in shadow or obscured in some way. Often a room that appeared one way is completely transformed moments later. And that can be interesting or satisfying at some points, usually when it's under our control, but it can be completely disarming at others. In fact, it subconsciously shaped my perception of light and the hiss. The first time this happens, the office is bathed in red light suddenly. It's a moment that's distinctively out of my control, and it's something that devs want you to know, that when you're in the presence of the hiss, you are at their mercy. Suddenly, things you thought you knew about the world are no longer true. Sound is integral to creating fear or dread in the player as well. According to sound designers at Remedy, the score isn't made up of recurring sounds or melodies, purposely avoiding creating a sense of familiarity, and it's an extremely subtle way to keep you on edge, when not even the musical score is reliable. They're also very careful to avoid using traditional instruments, opting instead for synthesized sounds that are never fluid and often distorted. And even our ever-present enemy, the hiss, create haunting distorted sounds that almost seem to follow the player even out of combat. But an even more interesting choice is that those infected by the hiss often still shriek or scream like regular humans when they're hurt. It's just another juxtaposition, a ghastly specter creeping towards you who shrieks like an innocent human when you try to defend yourself. And this leads to my final point about the hiss themselves. They tap into our fear of distorted human forms. They amble about or even float and fly in almost pained ways. Throughout my research for this video, I looked into an analysis of that scene in Poltergeist where the furniture is turned upside down for its obvious parallels here. And a very astute artist by the name of Paul Pfeiffer claims that that scene is so effective in unsettling the audience because it describes a kind of exchange or communication that's happening between a human entity and something that would be its opposite or its antithesis, something distinctly not human. The physical manifestations of the hiss aren't necessarily our antithesis like the undead of Poltergeist, but something almost human but full of pain and rage. And I believe that distortion of our humanity is even more effective than making it our antithesis or opposite. Control's incredibly beautiful art direction, robust sound design, and fun combat are the products of very distinct choices by developers that create an underlying sense of unease, and I think it's integral to keeping the players engaged with the game. All these design cues come together in a way that serves to set the player on edge, to question their surroundings and anticipate a threat around every corner. I just wanted to boil down some of these design choices and highlight their masterful nature in order to fully appreciate them. If you enjoyed this dive into the design of this blockbuster title, make sure to sub and check out my other video essays about your favorite games and characters. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.